So here we're going to continue our investigation on making a more realistic mock-up. My mock-ups are for some band music that I've written, and so there'll be some concert symphonic band specific items in this that will differ, maybe a little different than what's typically out there on the internet, which is things for film scoring, usually using the orchestra. But certainly these things apply to any mock-up that you're going to do. And as you begin to learn more about how to create realism, certainly you're going to get into the area of the modulation wheel and also expression control. So these are one of the two biggies, and there's plenty others. But the CC changes there, the control changes, abbreviated CC, are going to be used to create realism in many of the virtual instrument patches you may be using. One thing I did notice in the latest round of MIDI that I brought into Cubase, and I've got another video on how to do that, when I brought in the MIDI this time, I stripped a lot of the data out. And so the MIDI came in very plain because I was getting a lot of key switches and things that I had to go back and undo before I could really do what I wanted. So in that, because that came in that way, my modulation channel, my mod wheel, which controls in my Spitfire orchestra, and let me pull it over here. I'll show you where you might be able to find, even though your instrument might be different. You can see here I'm on my Spitfire instrument, and I'm using the Clarinets A2 All Techniques. And on Spitfire, the symphonic orchestra, right here you'll see dynamics, vibrato, release, all these things you can kind of adjust. And if you just want to adjust them and leave them, you can. But these are things that can be changed and should be changed over time if you're going to create a realistic mock-up. So I was working on this dynamics because I was not getting a lot of sound out of playback. So I went in here and realized nothing had been set for the mod wheel. So I'm going to attack, kind of in this order, I'm going to attack the mod wheel, get all those things where I'm at least hearing the sound. Now, the sound might be more aggressive than I want. It might be, need to be, maybe it's not aggressive enough for a certain section. And combining that with the different settings, the different articulations will give us more realism. So I'm just going to baseline go to each one of these first and just kind of set it up at a high value so I can at least hear what I'm getting out of the instruments, because it was very, very quiet. Clarinets couldn't hear them. Other instruments like flute couldn't hear them. So I'm going to first just go to those channels, and I'm going to push in just a basic mod wheel setting. So in Cubase, which is probably why you're watching this, but if you're watching because you have another DAW, you can find where you have it in your DAW. Usually it's down at the bottom in the key editor or the piano roll, I think Logic and other places call it. Over here in Cubase, you'll see where we can make these changes for the lane down here that we're going to view. And so I'm going to come up here, and I'm just going to go to CC1, which is the typical control change number for the modulation wheel. And typically on most keyboards, I've got the KeyBlab 88. Most keyboards that have two wheels, the first wheel will be kind of a pitch bend, and it snaps back to the middle if you go up or down. The mod wheel is usually goes from 0 to MIDI 127, and it's just wherever you put it and set it, it'll stay. And so that data can be recorded in these lanes so that it can be adjusted. And just like anything else, you can draw it in, with a shape or a pen, or if you would like, you could use a line, and if you want it more linear. For right now, I'm just going to pencil one in at the beginning of each so I can basically hear the instruments. And so this parameter, this control change 1, can give you a lot of power and a lot of flexibility when we're making our mock-ups more realistic. So the overall process is I'm going to go ahead and go through and do all of these. And then the next thing I'm going to attack is negative MIDI time, and I'll make a separate video about negative MIDI time, positive MIDI time. And then after that, we'll go through and we'll fine-tune not only the modulation wheel, the mod wheel, but we'll fine-tune, we'll begin to use some expression controls. And if you look under here, the same place, you'll find the mod wheel. You can find the expression, which is usually CC11. But once again, consult your documentation from your virtual instrument list. All right, thank you for watching.